Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Take A Pew. I'm Ian Wishart, and I'm joined as ever by one of the world's finest tenors, Mr. Simon Clark.
Hello!
Well, it's not Andrew Botticelli, is it? Well, dear listeners, we're so pleased you've tuned in today as we explore the live autobiography of another Take A Pew guest. And our guest this time is the Reverend Neil Lambert.
Neil Lambert.
Thanks, mate.
That's all right, mate.
Well, as you're hopefully getting used to now on Take A Pew, we will be asking Neil how he has managed to fill his time between being born and today.
Yes, and it wouldn't be Take A Pew without our special features. My favourite things, what's in your lunchbox, is it true, spiritual pearl of wisdom, and my random question.
It's going to be a blast. So let's get out our hassocks as we take a pew with the Reverend Neil Lambert.
Neil Lambert.
Take a pew.
And, dear listeners, you find us today in the village of Ash Vale near Guildford.
Yes, quite a short journey from Take A Pew HQ, but we still got some funny looks carrying our pew down the A324.
Yeah, we certainly did. But no matter. We're here now in the Church of St. Mary's with local vicar, the Reverend Neil Lambert. Neil, good morning and welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Well, I'm usually here, actually, but...
Yes, hello Neil, it's great to see you. Perhaps you'd just like to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Yeah, my name's Neil. I'm vicar of St Mary's, Ash Vale, married to the wonderful Helen, and with 3 children. They've asked me how old I am. 61, I think.
Thanks, Neil. Now, as we said, we have, of course, brought along our very special seat. So, Reverend Neil Lambert, please, take a pew. Now, Neil, we'd like to chat with you about what you've been up to so far in this life and what it is that you do at the moment.
Yes, and of course we'd like to hear about how you spend your spare time, to learn some of your favourite things, and to see what you consider to be the perfect packed lunch.
And you will, of course, have a chance to share a spiritual pearl of wisdom. But Neil, let's get stuck in. Please tell us your story so far. A ripping yarn, which I believe all started somewhere in London town.
Yeah, you want to go way back? Okay,
Way back.
so...
Right to the start.
Right, so I grew up in Finchley, North Finchley, and...
Is there a South Finchley?
There's a West Finchley, there's an East Finchley, but no
Not
South
South Finchley.
I think they call it Highgate. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
So I was the youngest of 4.
Okay. Brothers or sisters?
1 sister, 2 brothers.
Oh, right.
They all looked after me, and when they... I think we were playing in the front garden and causing trouble, and there was a lady walking by who said, "Would you like to come to Sunday school?" In the days when you could do that sort of thing. And we went to Sunday school, and we've never looked back. We've all been in church ever since.
Wow. So you went to school in Finchley then, I guess?
Yeah, went to Moss Hall and then Christ Church, secondary modern.
Oh, nice.
I used to lock myself in the art room.
Wow.
And just draw and paint and play with clay.
Fantastic. Oh, Neil, can I just interrupt you for a second, please? I've got a question, and my question is...
What were you like at school? Were you a little bit geeky? Or were you a little bit freaky? Or were you a little bit cheeky? What were you like at school?
Yes, Neil, what were you like at school?
I think I was a bit of a dreamer, really. I didn't really engage very much with academic work. I enjoyed sport, and like I said, I enjoyed art. Amazingly, I was head boy for some reason. But
Well, that's cool. How did that... Was there a big election process for that? Or?
cost me a fortune in sweeties.
Brilliant.
But yeah, so I enjoyed that. But I really enjoyed going to art school. I went to High Barnet to begin with, and then down to Goldsmiths.
Okay.
And those were in days when the YBAs were happening.
Yes,
That was all,
yeah,
and punk
yeah,
was
all
just
the-
beginning.
yeah, yeah.
So we had Where lots
So for the less educated of us, YBAs.
YBAs were young British artists.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
They were a group of. They just did their own thing, and they grew out of Goldsmiths around the time of New Wave, and I don't know if you remember the Brixton riots and things. It was a very exciting time to be around, and they just did their own thing. And Saatchi, who had much too much money, seemed to like the work and bought it, and then every banker in London crossed the Thames to Deptford and did the same. So some people made some money out of it, and still are.
It sounds quite posh, Goldsmiths.
Posh, have you been to Deptford?
Well, no. Okay. Well, maybe not the surroundings. I'm sure Deptford's a very nice place. Anyone listening from Deptford, it's absolutely wonderful.
It's up and coming, as they say.
But the reputation of Goldsmiths is very good, though, isn't it?
Do you know, I got no idea.
Oh, right.
I think,
Maybe I'm confusing it with somewhere like Harvard.
I think it's got a reputation for education and art. I remember doing pub crawls from Goldsmiths in Deptford, New Cross, to Greenwich.
Gosh, how far's that then?
Quite a long way.
Quite a few pubs.
But it was a three-legged pub crawl.
Oh, right.
So you started off in all the dives, absolutely okay, and you ended up in all the posh pubs in Greenwich, absolutely hammered. But those were in the old days.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other abiding memories then from Goldsmiths?
None I could say here.
Oh, okay.
So then, having studied there, you presumably went into some rarefied art environment.
Could you say that? I don't know. I was living near the Oval in Kennington and Vauxhall.
Oh,
yeah.
And I bought a window cleaning round.
Oh, of course
wow.
you did.
Yes.
Wow. Yes.
So I actually...
Most people do, I find.
And I really enjoyed that. So I was sort of working with St Mark's Kennington at the time, and with Single Homeless, and it was a good way of actually, being in the community. It would appear everywhere that I've been and lived is now up and coming. So watch out, Ashvale. That's all I can say. Yeah, I did lose my ladders about twice. They were nicked while I was up on a window.
No.
How did you get down?
Very carefully. Very carefully.
Well, what was your decision process after that as to what to do next?
I went to Japan.
Right.
Yeah, I thought, I'll
To
go
clean
Japan.
windows?
Not exactly.
No, okay.
It was on a mission that was organised by YWAM, Youth with a Mission.
Right.
I arrived, stayed a year, and loved it.
Wow.
I was particularly interested in Japanese tea ceremony.
Right.
And so I took my own little tea ceremony that I developed while at Goldsmiths, which was a tea set in a case, which I have to say I still have.
Was that in a big city or out in the
Yeah, I was in
countryside?
Tokyo.
Right, okay. That's a fairly big city, isn't it?
It is.
What was the most striking thing about that then, Neil? Being there?
I think having grown up in London, and really, apart from a year up in a croft in the Highlands of Scotland as a shepherd, the only other time I'd been outside of London, I'd never done it. So it was the first time on a plane to Japan. It was like being in an exotic world. Just everything was new, culture. People thought differently, did things differently. Absolutely wonderful. Just loving it.
So, and just to rewind slightly, because you dropped in there mention of, apart from a year in Scotland in a croft as a shepherd.
Yeah.
So I think we must have glossed over that before. How did that happen?
Well, I was at college, and after a year and a half at Goldsmiths, I suddenly thought, I need to think about all this. I need to think about my faith, and I need to think about my art practice, and I just need to get away. So I took a year off college.
Wow.
They let me have a year sabbatical, I guess.
Yeah.
And the person I was sharing a studio with had a relation who was a crofter up in the Highlands. So I was a shepherd for a year, crofter up in the Highlands. It was freezing. Yeah. It was wonderful.
And did you have a dog then?
I did. Had a great dog called Tiff. And luckily, he knew all about shepherding because I absolutely knew nothing. So he used to do all the work and I used to watch him.
Wow.
But they were pretty wild sheep. So we'd bring them in to dip them in some kind of keep the ticks off.
Custard?
No,
not
not custard.
Sheep dip, yeah.
Sheep dip.
Yeah.
Oh, sheep dip. So you had a year there, and then you had a year in Tokyo, did you say?
In all 2 years.
Oh, right, okay. So a couple of years in Tokyo, and you've
went back.
done some window cleaning.
I did have some interesting experiences there. I was having an exhibition in Tokyo in Ginza, and I said to a friend, "Can you? Do you think you can? I've always wanted to be a yakitori-san. They're cooks that make put chicken on sticks and broil it. You might have had it." With lovely sauce. I'll make you
I've
one.
had chicken.
Yeah, it's like chicken with stuff on. I'll make you one later, Ian.
Yeah.
But he got me this job in downtown Tokyo. And I was standing outside going, "Hai arashai, ai dozo," and bringing people in as an apprentice. And then they brought me in to teach. Eventually, after a week of that, they'd bring me in and teach me how to cook. Turns out they were yakuza. I thought, just a minute, some of them have got a lot of tattoos and little fingers missing. It turned out that these were mafia.
Oh, really?
And the whole shop was a cover for some naughty stuff that was going on. I think to do with arms trade. Gosh. But I remember one day another gang came with guns and they had a standoff. And I was just watching it. I thought, I think I'm going to leave this job.
That sounds like a wise.
But there was no trouble.
But they paid you, I guess. Yeah.
They did. Yeah, very nicely in cocaine.
By this stage, you've led a pretty dull life already.
Does sound a little bit boring.
So-
Where next, I wonder?
Yeah. What's the next stop in your train journey of life? There was some horticulture along the way somewhere, wasn't there? When we?
Oh yeah. I did a bit of work for Prince Charles in Kennington
As you
on
do.
his garden.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I can actually. My claim to fame is I did get some of. Who's the oldest boy? Is that William?
Yes.
Yeah. So Charles brought some christening cake down for the staff.
Right. Okay.
So I got a bit of his christening cake. Actually, one of the gardens was where Charlie Chaplin grew up.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah, Kennington Cross. If you're down that way.
Yeah.
Another up and coming area.
Well, that's good. Very good claim to fame. We like that. And I think there was probably some more overseas travel on the horizon at that point.
I fell in love with the wonderful Helen, and she said she'd marry me as long as I was going to be a missionary. So I thought, okay.
Well, that's perfectly reasonable demand.
I think so.
Yeah.
I thought that was worth it.
Yeah.
If you've seen her, you know why. I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to get married. I better have an adventure. I went to Pakistan. And travelled up onto the northwest frontier and met the Taliban, who were fighting the Russians at the time.
Right.
And I took my tea case with me, so I thought, I'll drink tea with people, like have tea with the Taliban. We were their friends because they were fighting the Russians.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So I was having tea at one time there, and a couple of pickups full of Taliban arrived. They all jumped out with their guns. I thought, oh my goodness.
Did they say, cup of tea, governor?
I said, do you want a cup of tea? And they said, yep, but we're going to do a number of them were from London, actually, strangely enough,
Really?
because they all wanted, their party was going on. They all wanted to be in there. And I said, before we have a cup of tea, we're going to have some shooting practice. We're going to do a bit of shooting practice. And one of them just threw this gun at me and said, gave it to me. He said, you have a shot. So I'd never even held a gun before. And there was a Coke bottle that they'd set up on a stone way over there. I just thought, better do this. So I pulled the trigger, bang, and I got it. Wow. I hit the bottle. They went berserk. They were carrying me on their shoulders, walking around going, doing their Pathan sort of Afghan thing, which was lovely people, really nice people to hang out with. So I went with them for a little bit up into the Hindu Kush.
Wow.
We never saw any action. We heard lots of big guns, but I didn't see.
That's extraordinary. So, why?
They were very nice.
In so many ways, I want to ask the question why.
Why?
But
Do you know, Ian, could I just say, my wife says if there's one thing she's learnt about me is do not ask the question why.
Right. No, that's fair enough. So that was your adventure that you had
Yeah, so I
craved.
came back, got married
Yeah.
to Helen. It was
Yeah.
wonderful.
But where did the mission bit come in? 'Cause-
Right, so we ended up in Uganda
Right.
with Emmanuel International, another great organisation, on a tier fund project up in the hills in the Ruwenzori, which is another beautiful, beautiful up and coming area. And we were taken up a hill, middle of. I mean, for me then it was the middle of nowhere, but then it became the centre of my world. A lot of the people up there hadn't seen white people before, so it was quite scary for them. But we learnt to love the people there, and we're still, as you know, we're still very involved in life there.
Yeah.
What's it that you love about them particularly then?
Their love of God.
Yeah.
And their compassion for people, for the neighbour, and can you say simple, the struggles that they would have, the forgiveness that they would have for people that had done them wrong, and they were a tribe who were kind of small and easy to pick on, but tough. Bit like the Gurkhas.
Yes.
But yeah, we learned the ways of the Bakonjo, and they became brothers and sisters.
Lovely.
So we were there about 3 years.
Okay. What did you get drawn into next? I also almost hesitate to ask because no idea what's going to go.
Where's it going to go next? Yeah.
We were sitting in the rainforest, as you do, in Uganda, reading our lifeline, which was the Guardian Weekly, which would be posted to us. So we'd open up the job page. Actually, we couldn't find a job, so we thought we'd better become students. And Helen signed up for an MA at Sheffield doing nutrition.
Oh yeah.
And which turned into a PhD in nutrition, and now she's teaching nutrition.
Great.
And I signed up for an art therapy MA, which is using art
Yes.
or obviously therapeutically. But that's always an angle I wanted to take my art. So I signed up for that, and we lived in Sheffield, beautiful Sheffield, for 9 years.
Wow, 9 years. So that was a good old stint. By your standards, that's a long time, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we did have 3 adventures called Children there.
Yeah.
Alice, Joseph and Anna. So they all grew up there. And eventually I got the call. Do you say that? Got the call to be a vicar? Or God said, hey,
Yeah.
Hey, about time.
I want you to be a vicar.
Yes. You've had enough adventures.
Yes.
You've seen enough of life.
Settle down.
Need you to serve other people in a different way.
Yeah.
And was that how did you think about that? Because the whole, if I dare say it, the whole ordination thing is essentially a part, fundamentally, I suppose, an institutional type thing, and there's a certain amount of routine training, if you like, or regulated training. Did that sit comfortably? Were you happy in that environment?
No.
Right. No. That was a very long question, I'm afraid. And a very apposite answer.
It's a very long story how I was called, but it was relentless and wouldn't go away. And I thought, and listeners, this might be happening to you right now, but that call just wouldn't go away. And it was, in the end, I thought, I'm just going to do this, follow it, and get it over with, and then it can go away.
Right.
And it nearly went away. The only problem was it didn't.
Yeah.
So you end up actually at theological college. In my case, at Ridley in Cambridge.
Okay.
That was another world, and in my head I was thinking, how do I reconcile my art practice with this kind of rarefied sort of environment.
Yeah.
But it really did open it up for me, and I found actually that I could actually express myself in film or performance or however,
Right.
in that context.
Okay. Yeah.
And actually, Joe Bailey Wells, who's now the Bishop of Dorking, was my Old Testament teacher.
okay.
And she was very encouraging.
Yeah.
If you're listening, Joe, thank you.
Excellent. Future guest, perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then you have to choose a parish.
Yeah.
Or you get sent to a parish or whatever. And of course, you came to our own parish,
Yeah.
not too far from here.
Yeah.
And how did that come about?
Well, that was I had this kind of strange idea of myself as being an inner city sort of vicar with, back in Vauxhall or Pimlico. So I just kept applying for jobs to be curate at these churches and would always come in as number 2.
That's what they told you, at least.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They told everyone that. Apart
Oh, there were a lot of
Person
number
number
2s in
one.
those days. So I was a bit disappointed, and my principal, who was Chris Coxsworth, great guy, said, "I might have a parish for you. There is a really lovely parish down in Surrey." And I thought, what? Leafy Surrey, in Purford. So I checked it out. I met Nick, the vicar, and he was nice. And to tell you the truth, Ian, I didn't have anywhere else to go. So I ended up at Purford.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it's one of the absolute highlights of our lives being at Purford. The people, in some ways, they were quite exotic. A bit like the people in Uganda were, or Japan.
Yeah.
So we learnt the ways of the middle class, which involved quite a lot of eating, quite a lot of dinner parties,
Yes.
but a lot of friendships.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And that's what survives.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just remember, because I'm actually quite a shy person, I remember my first sermon, and I thought, I've just got to, I'm going to do this for God. So I'm just going to be myself, and God made me, so if they don't like it, they can go and see God, because he did. He made me like this. I'm sorry, guys. And then from that moment, I just had a lot of fun, I think. I enjoyed life, being myself.
I suppose the fun in Purford had to come to an end at some point, because you've got to move on, haven't you, as a curate?
Yes.
And so you got your vicarship, or whatever the technical word is, only, 10 miles away, I guess, to here in Ashvale.
Yeah.
And what about the selection process for that? Was that easier, or was that only the only option left as well?
Well, the diocese were desperate to keep me, so they did find, I think I tried a couple of other places in Guildford.
Yeah.
And eventually we came to have a look at Ashvale, and it felt good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is the parish quite different? Is it very different to Purford?
No, the parish isn't. You know, parish work is parish work. I think whether you're in Uganda or it's dealing with people's joys and sadnesses and just trying to get out of the way of God and let Him work and having a wonderful time. I mean, I really do think that God calls us to enjoy life. You know. And you can enjoy life wherever you are and with whoever you're with. There have been some real challenges, of course. But, do you know what? People want, you know, deep down, they want to meet. It's about meeting. They want to meet God. They want to meet their neighbour, right? Depending on your neighbour. But they want to, how do you connect? How do you connect with God? How do you connect with neighbour? Each other. How do we connect with each other? And so really my journey, whether it's been barn dancing or liturgy or prayer meetings or whatever, has been about that, about helping people to connect with their creator or with each other.
Yeah.
And we call that church.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Which has included, you were explaining to us just before we came on air, as it were, included the use of your rather awesome pizza oven at the back of the vicarage there.
Yeah, that's a good example of trying to bringing people together.
Yeah.
At the beginning of lockdown, of course, we were all kind of hiding, weren't we? So wondering, what are we going to do?
Yes, at the first stage. Yeah, that's right.
So, I was praying, and I just really felt God saying, build a pizza oven.
Right.
And saying, feed my people when they come out of lockdown. So I did lots of YouTube,
Yeah.
Right.
finding out how to do it, and then built it. And then made pizza.
It obviously works.
Yeah, it was. Do you know what? It was really good.
Yeah.
And I've been feeding people pizza here ever since.
Wonderful.
And surprise, they quite like it.
Yes. What's
We've all put weight on.
What's the most pizzas you've made in one sitting?
I think we're close to 100 at once.
It's just ridiculous.
And actually, tables we've discovered are very
Right.
important. Very interestingly, and there might be a photo somewhere for you guys at home, but right behind you, this interview is another a painting of the hospitality of Abraham.
Right.
And have a look at it, Ian.
Yeah.
And Simon, look. So you got three, three angels, three godlies, sitting round a table. And that's a table laid out by Abraham for God.
Okay.
For God.
Yeah.
But every Sunday, God lays a table for us.
Yeah.
But in between Sundays, we've got tables all over the place. And some of them have got pizza on. Some of them have got other tea on. I do a lot of tea. And we sit around a table and we share each other, and we share whatever's on the table. Last night, I think it was spaghetti we had around the table in the vicarage garden.
And then we touched on lockdown a little bit, and you've done some pretty creative things through lockdown, haven't you? You've been on the telly a couple of times, or on the radio, or
I felt kind of a bit belligerent and thought, we're not going to get kicked out of church. We're going to have a service every Sunday, however it's going to happen.
Right.
And so the first Sunday in lockdown, we had a service in the car park. I thought, well, we've got Zoom, we've got Wi-Fi. I'll set the table outside in the car park, invite people to come in cars, and we'll do it from there. At the end, I blessed them with a hose. So I just sprayed the cars with water, a spurge, I think they call it.
Okay.
Like you blessed everybody, and the kids loved it, obviously. Yeah. And then they hallelujah'd by turning their windscreen wipers on.
Except for the ones that had the windows open, and they got
but they were fine. And they were a bit annoyed at this point.
No, they were baptised.
Absolutely.
Give them a quick sprinkle. And as you know, Simon, I baptised your child,
yes.
didn't I?
Not with a hose, though.
No, fortunately not.
It was a wonderful occasion.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Radio BBC Ulster were desperate to find somebody who was doing services outside.
Okay.
Because they'd been told they can't open their churches, but they can have services in their car park. So the journalists, they were all looking for someone who was having a service in a car park. And so how they found me,
you?
they came to me, rang me up, said, can we do an interview?
Right.
So we did Radio Ulster.
Yeah.
Then the Sunday Times got hold of it, and then everybody wanted a bit of Ashvale. Sky were interested in the pizza oven.
Okay.
I think they were looking for a nutty vicar.
Yeah.
Boy, did they find one.
So how did you find that whole experience, though?
It's interesting how it seemed to touch people, and I was getting emails from Russia and all over the world, people joining our services. A few people found our Zoom service and joined us from Poland and different places. Like I said, I'm quite a shy person, but you do these things for God, don't you?
Obviously, a lot of what you do, Neil, revolves around the church and the people, or which I guess is the same thing. But when you do have any downtime, what are your other interests? And
I'll share something that's just developed over the last 2 months, I think.
Okay.
Maybe a bit longer. But I bought a camper van.
right,
A T5 that my brother converted with a loo and a shower and a bed and things.
nice.
And on a Tuesday, I go for an adventure, and I just go on my own, hit the south coast, and go and play on the beach. So sleep over, spend Wednesday, do Evensong, Zoom from a location
obviously,
on the south coast.
I mean, I think we all do Evensong when we go to the beach for the day, don't we? I think.
Well, quite naturally.
Yeah.
And it's been wonderful just discovering the seaside again. Do you know, when as a kid, all my photos of me as a kid, it's like I'm at the seaside. And now I've gone full circle and I'm back playing in the sand.
Yeah.
And going swimming and having a lovely time and just connecting with God. And then I buy a fish from a fisherman usually with a carbon footprint of 50 feet probably in Hastings or somewhere like that, and bring it home and cook it for Helen, and we watch the news.
And so is that something you enjoy? Also, you talked about pizzas, but
For me, cooking's a way of meeting people.
okay, yeah.
I've done a few pilgrimages across Europe with a tea table. It's very interesting to see how different nationalities meet with each other, like how the French or the Italians or German or the English, actually how they use a table to eat. And along the way, you meet all sorts of people. It's hard to describe, but you know, when somebody comes up to you and says, "Would you like a cup of tea?" Then you say yes.
Yes. Natural response, isn't it?
We had a tea pilgrimage to Novi Sad in Serbia, where there was a European Council going on. We thought we'd take tea there and drink it along the way. And we got to the border of Serbia. And driving up to the border, we did notice a lot of Hell's Angels.
Right.
From all over Europe, chapters from Norway, everywhere, all over. And they were on their bikes, hundreds of them, just driving on the same road down towards Serbia. And we'd been told, "Oh, Neil, when you get to the border, they're going to pull you apart. It's going to be very tricky," because our car was obviously packed with tea things. And we got to the border. It was swarming with Hell's Angels. And as we drove to the border guard, who was searching all these bikes, and it was chaos. And he just waved us through. So he said, "Yeah, quick. So we drove through across the border into Serbia. We didn't wait a minute for it. And in some ways, I quite like to think that the angels opened that up for us.
The path was cleared.
The path was cleared.
Yeah. Well, I mean, which brings us beautifully on, because it's almost time for lunch. But before we have lunch, it brings us very nicely onto a little game that we like to call My Favourite Things.
My favorite things.
Yes, my favourite things. So, Reverend Neil Lambert, we'll give you a category. It's a very simple game. Give you a category, and you just have to tell us your favourite thing in that category. So the first question, or the first category, and a standing item now on the show, is your favourite book of the Bible. You have read the Bible, haven't you?
Paul's. That is just so difficult, isn't it, Ian? Because they just speak. Each book speaks to a different part of me, and it would be easy to say Psalms, because Psalms just seem so immediate and so human and so full of wisdom. I could say. Can I have one from the Old Testament and one from the New?
You could do what you like, really. There's no real official protocol around this.
Okay, so I'll choose Psalms from the Old Testament, and from the New Testament. Has to be a gospel, doesn't it? I choose Luke Luke.
Right.
Gospel of Luke.
I
love Luke.
I like Luke. It's very good. Yeah. All right. Very good.
Okay, very good. Good. What about a songwriter, Neil? Favourite songwriter?
Do you know? Well, the first songwriter that comes into my mind, Leonard Cohen.
Right. Okay.
I mean,
That's a happy thought.
I love many music, but Leonard Cohen, what a guy. I went to a concert at the O2 Arena for a birthday present and heard him. And I just thought, this guy, he's priestly.
Okay.
If I could, that's what I want to be like. I also want to be like Roy Orbison, but that's another story. Right. But if I could be like Leonard Cohen in my services, that would be, I would be complete. God would have me where he wanted me.
Really? Yeah. So what is it? Can you describe what on earth you're talking about?
I can hear this sounds strange. It was the way his measured, kind of almost fatherly sort of invitation to reflect.
Right. Okay.
Oh God, that goes just off the top of my head.
Interesting, though. Yeah, it's interesting. It'd be interesting to.
He held, and Cohen, of course. I hadn't thought of this, but Cohen means priest, doesn't it? You know, within the tribes of Israel, Cohens are priests.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I'm right, Ian. Just admit it.
Yeah. All right. So our third category, again, we've established a habit with this. We'll make it a top 5.
Top 5.
Yeah. So favourite things, top 5. Your favourite 5 artists.
Oh, okay. Oh, I do love art. Okay. My first one, I think I'm going to choose Rothko, because his paintings at the Tate Britain really taught me how to engage with art. And I just remember sitting in front of those beautiful paintings of Rothko for a whole day, just sitting there, just gazing at these beautiful paintings. And he also taught me that art is about emotion, is about... in fact, do you know what? Leonard Cohen and Rothko are very similar.
Right.
Yeah. Next one. I'm going to choose Giovanni Bellini, who and the painting that I really of his that really captivates me is the Baptism of Christ, which is in Vicenza.
Right. Okay.
And that's just you find your jaw, my jaw just drops, and I just kind of swim in. It's like swimming in the sea. And the wonderful thing, he paints Christ's belly button, which is for me extraordinary. This is God with a belly button. God was born.
All right. So I've lost track already. Bellini. That was 2, I think, was it?
2.
Yeah. A mere 3 still to go.
Do you know, one of the artists is a contemporary artist who I'm lucky to have as a friend. He's called Dan Austin.
Oh, yeah, I've met Dan.
And we've got one of his paintings in the church. Right. He does our parish magazine covers. Mm-hmm. And last week, he delivered a brand new communion table, which for me is this is an extraordinary work of art, made out of different woods. Took 8 years to make.
Gosh.
We've got to pay for it now. So if anybody's got spare cash, let us have it.
Sell a few more pizzas.
Yeah, the theology of it is beautiful.
Nice. Okay, 2 left.
Okay. I'm going to choose Senno Riku, who was a Japanese tea master back in the, I think, 17th century. He developed an aesthetic of tea. And I just love his tea bowls.
Right, okay.
And art. The whole aesthetic that came out of that is extraordinary.
Very good. And last one.
Rembrandt. I have to choose Rembrandt. Love Rembrandt. I love his etchings, Bible etchings. I just like the narrative that he has in his very simple sketches.
Very good. All right, that was top 5 artists. Well done. Good shout.
Wow. Okay, Neil. So Neil is immaculately well dressed today. Yeah, for our listeners. So, item of clothing, Neil. What's your favourite item of clothing?
at the moment, I'm wearing them now, and they're my shoes.
Oh, look at that.
These I got these for my birthday. These are all birds, and they're just so comfy.
Comfortable. There's nothing quite as good as comfy shoes, is there?
Comfy shoes. I put them on, and I'm walking tall. Obama wears them apparently. So there you go.
Very good. Okay, so finally on my favourite things, this is a multiple choice question. So it's your favourite canal. Okay. So I've got choices.
So what?
Choices
Interesting
three.
question. Yeah, go on.
So three options are the pasta-based dish cannelloni, the nutritious and delicious beans cannellini, or 18th century Venetian painter Canaletto. Your favourite canal. So cannelloni, cannellini, Canaletto.
Well, as you know, I'm obsessed with food and art, so
Yes.
that's a real toughie.
I thought it might be, yes.
I'm going to go with Canaletto.
Okay.
I went to see some of at the Queen's Gallery, some of his paintings. Extraordinary paintings. Yeah, so Canaletto.
So Canaletto just trumps.
Just don't eat them.
Just trumps pasta. Okay, so that was excellent. My favourite things. Well done. Thank you very much. But Neil, I think it's high time that we gave you an opportunity to have a spot of luncheon. And I'm very excited to see that you have brought a very intriguing set of luncheon boxes that you'll explain to us. So,
Tell us, Reverend, what's in your lunchbox?
yes, tell us, Reverend,
What's in your lunchbox?
Well, I have before me my lunchbox, and it is the lunchbox I take to the seaside once a week.
Okay. It's
And
amazing.
it's
It's
nice, isn't
stacking something.
It's
or
more
other.
than just a lunchbox.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
kind
that's
of
it's
Chinesey, I think.
different class, isn't
It is.
Yeah.
So here in the top we have
Oh, look at
Oh,
that. Wow.
that's quite a selection. I'm hungry
That
now.
is-
Actually, just the sight of that makes me hungry.
a little bit of mozzarella,
That's nice.
Yeah.
the buffalo, a little bit of salami, some olives, a chili, and I do like a radish.
A radish.
A
Okay.
radish. So that's just to get me going,
Little
get it ready,
appetizer.
little
Have that first,
appetizer.
yeah.
Antipasti type
Yeah,
stuff.
very nice. Very
Oh,
nice.
it does look very nice. It smells rather
Ooh,
nice as well.
I've got a roll here.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
gosh, look at that.
Because you never know, do you? If you need
Bread's always good.
Yeah.
Some sort
Yeah,
of
it's
bread
like-
product.
some bread.
It's a bat
So I put
type
that
thing,
there.
isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
starters.
Yeah.
And then I have leftovers from last night, which I made a spaghetti. And actually, this spaghetti's got chicken livers in.
wow.
So not everybody likes that, but it's
Yeah.
got some parsley
Chicken
just
didn't
on top.
like it, presumably. Especially.
Yeah.
And dessert, bottom layer, we've got a dessert, which is some fruit.
I've got some bilberries, and I'm gonna have some jam, which I got from the Shepherd's Market in Purford, where they raise money every year for charities. One of which happens to be Amahawe. Just getting that in there.
Yeah,
The
well,
Uganda
charity.
Uganda
Yeah.
charity that you're very involved with. And
Well, you tuck in. It looks absolutely magnificent. So we'll just sit back now and let you enjoy your lunch.
thank you very much.
Take a pew.
Yes, and welcome back, listeners. And you rejoin us. And Neil has unbelievably polished off his entire stacking lunch.
huge.
Congratulations, I think, are in order of you.
Thank you.
Finishing that. But there we go. So we've talked a little bit about your stories thus far and what you're up to at the moment. But let's just look briefly at what's in store. What do you see when you look towards the future? Are you going to be here for some time, or?
At the moment, I tell you what, I do get the Church Times, and they have adverts for vicars in the back, and I do look at them occasionally. But then I kind of reflect, do you know what? There's nowhere as exciting as here.
Wow. Okay.
So until God says, I want you there, I'm more than happy to be here, because so many good things are happening and it's so nice to see God working in people.
Do you think you've done all your travelling? Do you think
Travelling?
All the
Oh no, not at all.
not at all.
Well, at the moment, I'm discovering the South Coast and the South Downs, and I'm loving that. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm sure God will continue to bless you in that journey, wherever it may take you. Now, as we approach the last dregs of the show, as I like to call them, we obviously can't let you go, Neil, without asking you to give us a spiritual pearl of wisdom.
Yes, and while you're thinking about that, Neil, we'd like to ask you another question. And we call this part of the show...
Is it true? Is it true? Is it true? Is it true?
Oh no.
Yes, is it true? We have this slot on the show because you can read all sorts of conjecture about matters of faith and the Bible, and we like to take this opportunity to get an expert input. So as our resident theologian today, we'd like to check something really important with you, Neil.
So,
Is it true? Is it true? Is it true? Is it true?
yes, Reverend Neil Lambert. Sounds a bit like Norman Stanley Fletcher, doesn't it? Reverend Neil Lambert.
Thank you. That makes me feel.
Is it true? Is it true that aircraft were actually invented 2,000 years ago? Otherwise, why would the famous Roman official at the time of Jesus' crucifixion have been known as Pontius the Pilate?
Ah, very good question.
Is it true?
Yeah, he was ahead of his time. That's all I could say. But no, it is not true. He didn't get his wings.
Did he not?
That man.
Why was he called Pontius the Pilate?
Do you know? I have no idea.
Was it a nickname? Do you think he used to fly off the handle a bit?
Hey.
Sorry.
Actually, I've misread that.
That's quite good.
I've misread that. It's just Pontius Pilate, isn't it? No, I got that.
Oh.
So the question was doomed before we started. I'll tell you the funny thing I think about, or the interesting thing I think about Pontius Pilate, he must have had, way back in the day, an amazing appreciation society or fan club.
Yeah.
Because if you think of the creed, right, this thing that we say in church.
Yeah.
So billions of people, literally, every week say the creed. And it's, it's the main facets of the faith, I suppose, God the Father and the Son, the Holy Spirit and all that stuff. But Pontius Pilate gets a name check.
I know.
In that creed.
know.
His name is mentioned by billions of people every week. I mean,
Crazy.
how did that happen? Do you think it's blackmail?
Suffered under Pontius Pilate.
He did, yeah.
That's quite a. It was like a sort. We're all pointing at poor old Pontius Pilate, saying he did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's extraordinary. How when they were coming up with that, there must have been some lobbying to get Pilate, Pontius the Pilate, named in there. But anyway, okay. So we think that's probably not true. But I'm pleased we've sorted out.
Yes, that was good. It was a good answer.
Always nice to put you straight.
Yeah. It's important, I think. But now, Neil, hopefully you've had a chance to reflect a little, and we'd be delighted if you could share your spiritual pearl of wisdom.
It's a spiritual pearl of wisdom.
Oh, bless. Well, my pearl of wisdom for you today is I've been reading a book called Jubilant My Feet by somebody called Elizabeth Church, which is an extraordinary autobiography. She was a lady who grew up, saw the First World War. She married somebody called Howard Church, who was actually a vicar at the Good Shepherd, Purford, and was very instrumental in building a new church. And it takes you through her life, which is, I often think vicars' wives are the most amazing people. I married one, but they have such insights, and it's wonderful to read her story of her life with God and the struggles that she had with Howard together, not struggling with Howard, but together they had going to different places. They were in Kenya during the Mau Mau, and just this wonderful faith that she had. And the whole book, when I put it down, the whole book made me think, what am I going to leave behind? I wonder if, I haven't really done anything significant. I wonder, what can I do for God that I can actually leave behind? What's the word? Legacy! What is my legacy? And reading that book from Elizabeth Church just made me think, what a legacy, what a saint. And it just made me want to have more legacies. Yeah, so I'm out there. This is not the end, this is the beginning. Just...
It's a spiritual pearl of wisdom.
Well, thank you for that, Neil. And so, just before we finish, I'm afraid I am contractually obliged to allow Simon to ask a random question.
I bet you wish you didn't sign that contract, Ian.
Simon's random question.
Simon, what's your random question for Neil?
Well, Ian, thanks for that. I'm not sure if this is allowed, but my random question today is quite a practical one. I'm in the process of redoing our bathroom, and I would like to know, when it comes to grouting the tiles, should I use raspberry jelly or custard?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, that's a hard one. I would use raspberry jelly, but buy your raspberry jelly from the Shepherd's Market in Purford.
Specifically?
Because they do spicy raspberry jelly. And so when you're having a shower and the raspberry jelly is running down the walls, it will tingle your feet.
Oh,
Wow. Tingly feet.
Tingly feet. Would you also sort of just perhaps taste a bit as well? You could always...
I wouldn't if I was you.
You wouldn't, you?
You could lick it off.
You can lick it, I suppose.
I'd find someone. Can you lick
something a bit...
No, I wouldn't go there.
Slightly, yeah.
Thank you, Simon. Interesting question.
Yeah, interesting question. And opposed to custard, you would... Why
Stay
not
away
custard?
from custard.
Just what, generally, or just not for grouting?
Well, in my experience, custard in the shower,
Yeah.
it blocks the drain.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
My reservation about... I get the zingy feet. My reservation about raspberry jelly is if it does melt a little bit, it would look very unsightly with jelly
it could be
streaming down the walls. Of the
Oh
shower.
my goodness.
It would look all a bit
Yeah,
psycho,
yeah.
wouldn't it?
Psycho. Yeah, that came into my
yeah,
mind, that
yeah,
image of Psycho with jelly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
That was all very enlightening. And that was...
Simon's random question.
Well, Neil, thank you for welcoming us here in Ash Vale. And thank you for joining us on the show.
you're very welcome, Ian, Simon, and our wonderful Mark on the sound desk. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. And thank you, dear listener, for being with us. Simon and I will be with you again soon with another special guest for some more fun, another lunchbox, and another random question. But for now, it's Toodle Pip from me.
And tutty bye from me.
Join us again next time as we take a pew.
Take a pew.